Hey guys, this is Alex Divison, and this is the third video in a series of videos detailing the creation and implementation of user story number 2416 for the BreazeHome project, viewing competition of a property. Now, if you guys have any questions throughout the video, please feel free to contact me. I'll be displaying my contact info at the end of the video. And if you have any questions about BreazeHome project as a whole, feel free to contact Professor Masood Sajadi, who is acting as both the mentor and product owner for the BreazeHome application. I'll also be displaying his contact info at the end of the video as well. Now, in the last video, we went over system design and how to transition to object design. In this video, we'll be going over object design and how to design class and sequence diagrams for the user story number 2416. Okay, so the first thing we're going to want to do is, as always, update the sprint board on the Mingle website. Now in the last video, we started and completed the system design, so we can move this all the way to done. And in this video we're gonna be working on the object design. So let's actually now create that task. And write a short description. Complete object design of the user story number 26 of user story 2416 and create class and sequence diagrams for the feature. Okay. As always, we'll set some points for it. Set it to 1 to make it a must. And add it. Okay, and since we're going to be working on object design, we'll move it into in development. Okay, with that done, we can now go to the BreazeHome Git repo and get a grasp on the object design and start work on the class and sequence diagrams using starUML.
And once again, I said all these use cases are using the desktop, and our backend is going to be using the BreazeHome API, that Django repo. So these are only two repos we'll be using, and I always find it easier to start from the presentation layer and work myself backwards when creating class diagrams and sequence diagrams. So we'll be looking at the Breeze.desktop, opening up that repo. And the first thing we want to do is find the page that we begin our use cases from. And all our use cases have the same precondition, and we always start off from the details page of the property that we've clicked on. So let's find this details page. You go to app, you go to views, and looking at all the views, I can see the details.html page. So this is the page that the user is going to see, and that contains the view counts and the amount of times it's been favorited. So now I want to find the controller that's in control of this page. So I'm going to navigate backwards and go to scripts. And in scripts, we're going to go to the app.js. In app.js, I'm going to look for the details.html, which is right over here. And I can see that this is its controller right here. Now that I know what controller is being used, I'm going to navigate to this controller now. I go to this controller, and I don't see the specific name, right? But I do see a results.js, and I see a details.js. I click here, and I see the control name is results controller. That's not what we wanted. Go to details.js, and I see results detail controller. This is what we wanted. So this is our controller that we're looking for. Now, in this controller, I see that I'm getting property information from this property service and calling this method. All right, once I search for a property by ID, it returns that property and I'm storing it in this controller. So I'm already getting the idea of I want to also create a method in this property service where I also get the property view data. So let's look for this property service. I'm going to navigate out of this. I see services over here. Properties, and here's the property.js page. And I can see the methods in here. I can even see the get by ID function I was talking about before. And I can see the get request that it makes to the BreazeHome API. So it's in this service that I want to make my methods, that update the view counts and also get the view count data. So already I've got a general idea of how everything's going to communicate with each other. Okay, I know that I'm going to want a property details, like a details page class for my presentation layer. I know that I'm going to want a details controller class that represents the results details controller that I saw in the repo. I also know that I'm going to need a property service class that's going to make that API call to the BreazeHome API. And I'm also going to need the BreazeHome API itself. Most likely, I'm also going to need a couple classes that are going to map to the property data and viewing data that are contained in the BreazeHome database. So once I know what I need, I can now go to starUML and start creating these classes and class diagram. Now I've already created the class diagram. If we go over here, I go to design, static model, and here's the class diagram. All right, we can see our details page. You can see the details controller, see the service, and we can see the methods that it's making. It updates the view count, gets the view count. We can see both the property viewing data and the property data. And we can also see our BreazeHome API over here.
Now, I'm only introducing these diagrams and explaining them rather than designing and implementing them from scratch in this video. However, if you need more information on how to use starUML, I have another series of videos that detail how to utilize this tool and create class, use case, and sequence diagrams, and it can be found on the BreazeHome Wiki website. Moving on, this specific sequence diagram is the sequence diagram for the total property views. And when we're creating our sequence diagrams for user story number 2416, we're going to want to create a sequence diagram for all of our use cases. And if we go to our use case diagram, we can see that we have 3 of them over here. And the sequence diagram I was showing before is for this one right over here. Now going back to the sequence diagram, in the diagram we can see how the various objects interact with each other. And it's through these interactions that we can see if we have any mistakes or errors in our class diagram. That's why it's really important when we're writing or creating the sequence and class diagrams for this user story to do it in conjunction, because you can use the sequence diagram to see if there are any errors in the class diagram. For example, when I'm trying to make a message between my details page and details controller, right? I'm trying to get the property details. When I do this message between the two, I then click operation and I can see the get property details. Now let's say I didn't see this operation but I was expecting it. That tells me that my class diagram has an error and I need to go back to the class diagram and add this operation. And this is how you'd be able to check whether or not your class diagram has any errors, and you can go back and forth between sequence and class diagrams, modifying and tweaking them. Alright, so let's actually delete this since that's not part of the diagram. Alright, and once you finish these sequence diagrams, we've essentially finished the object design for the user story. And that's all for this video. With the completion of object design, we can now move on to implementation and testing. These topics will be discussed in the next video. Now, as I said before, if you have any questions about what was discussed in the video, please feel free to contact me at my email or via my LinkedIn account, both of which is listed right over here. And if you have any questions about the BreazeHome project as a whole, feel free to contact Professor Sajati at his email indicated below, right over here.